First things first, go to track settings, velocity sensitivity off, then go to quantization. I don't think I covered that. So after turning off the velocity sensitivity, I would say at first it doesn't really matter about the quantization, which what that does is it automatically places notes in sync with whatever tempo you're using, but you don't really need it until you have a general idea of the way you want to record your sample. So if you want to do, I don't know. So I'll show you the sample that I had already loaded earlier. So this is the same track, but the sample I'm going to use is just a different section of the sample. And again, it can be really tricky, especially if you have a really long sample, or like a sample that's an entire song. It can be really tricky to try and get the sample to start exactly where you want it. So let me go back to the other one to show it to you. So let's, and you can press and hold down this start selection tool or whatever, and that kind of works. But sometimes when you let go, it'll move this slightly. It's really sensitive, and then you'll get, instead of like that, you'll get something like, and that can be pretty annoying. So I'll show you how to fix that in a minute. So let me just go to the sample I'm gonna use. Again, it's just the same. It's the same song, just a different section that I prepared. And I believe the note that I wanted to use was I think it might have been up one. Yeah, so just and that's what I like about lo-fi. Again, it's not about complexity, it's more about the perfect amount of simplicity. So as far as when you have a good sample that you want to use, you don't have to tweak it too much to get a good sound. You can tweak it and change it and try and make it sound better, but for the most part it's not really necessary. Just like I said, I just turn it into an instrument, and then I bring it to whatever octave or semitone I want it. So like I think that might be the original song, but then I'll just slide it down, so the part that I'm recording is down here. So then try to get a feel for the tempo of the sample, and that's how I base the tempo of my songs, is by first creating the pattern or the general idea of the pattern I want to use as a base, and then trying to sense the tempo of it. To change the tempo, you press this wrench toolbar in the very top right, then it'll say tempo, and the standard one it starts out with is 110, and the ones that I use mostly for the I don't know, for a majority of the last few songs that I've made, or the last songs I made like this past year, the main tempos I've been using are 80 or 160. This thing at the very top, this is the metronome, and that just plays the tempo of the song. To edit the tempo, what you can do is you can do it manually, or manually by tapping, but that can be kind of hard sometimes. So then what I recommend doing is, so first remember the part of the sample that you want to use, the tempo of it, turn the metronome off, and then play the part. And just try to remember the tempo. So like, and then go back to the settings button, go back to tempo, and then and for lo-fi, lately I've started using really low tempos. If you want a more precise recording, I would just double this so that instead of hearing this, you would hear and this can be good, like I said, if you want precise recordings and you're kind of having a hard time recording it with the tempo when it's slow. But for me, I leave it at about 60 now, or I think like the lowest I've done is even like 55, and that's just because that really helps you get the sort of like smooth, mellow, lo-fi sound.